These are Del Monte peaches. For years, Del Monte canned goods were a staple on grocery shelves and American pantries.
One more way for you to say yes. Say yes. Say yes to the best, Del Monte.
I'm not saying I dreamed about canned fruit or anything, but these little labels have been in my mom's pantry since I was a little Tory. I've got good revenue data for them going back to 2003. And look, they've been successful for a long time. But if I add one more year here, you can see the whole picture start to shift. For nearly 140 years, Del Monte meant nutrition and stability. It was what you bought when you didn't know what tomorrow looked like. Now, it's Del Monte that needs saving.
Del Monte, known for its canned fruits and vegetables, has filed for bankruptcy.
The Tory story that I'm about to unfold for you right now wasn't one sudden collapse, but instead a series of choices and changes that collided over time, reshaping Del Monte's future forever. Look at this. It's not a grocery store coupon, it's a 1956 Civil Defense membership card. Proof that you are ready for the end of the world. This was part of Grandma's Pantry, a Cold War campaign urging Americans to stock a week's worth of food in case of a nuclear attack. Long before bankruptcy, Del Monte was a symbol of preparedness, backing the war effort and promoting pantry stocking, aligning itself with national resilience. Exact sales are unclear, but canned food consumption surged post-World War II. By 1947, Americans were eating significantly more canned fruits and vegetables than before the war. And over the next 21 years, Del Monte, along with other canned food companies like Campbell's, Libby's, and Hunt's, cemented its place in American kitchens. While canned goods were Del Monte's most popular product line, adding a fresh produce division in 1968 helped broaden the brand's appeal for another 2 decades. Until 1989, when Del Monte was no longer just one company. That year, it sold off its fresh fruit division. That pineapple on your counter? Del Monte Fresh. The corn in your pantry? Del Monte Foods, the one that just went bankrupt. The logo is the same because of a licensing agreement. The sale came right after an investment firm named KKR bought Del Monte's parent company at the time, RJR Nabisco, for almost $25 billion. The deal left Del Monte about $20 billion in debt. We'll get to why that's so important in a second. To pay that off, RJR Nabisco, now under KKR, began offloading assets, and Del Monte Fresh was one of the first things to go. Over the next decade, private equity firms kept flipping Del Monte, not because it was failing, oh no, but because its steady cash flow made it exactly the kind of business they were looking for. One legal memo clearly spelled it out. With its stable, cash-generating businesses, Del Monte was the ideal target. And for a while, the acquiring and flipping worked. By 2009, Del Monte was in 8 out of 10 households. Even as the company grew, launching fruit cups, expanding into pet food, it was followed by ballooning debt. This means that even when revenue hit a record $3.8 billion in 2013, it was also paired with nearly $1.3 billion in debt. Bottom line, even though the company was making money, it was now tied to a consistently growing anchor. And don't get me wrong here, debt and business go hand in hand. It isn't uncommon to carry some, but think of it like a horror movie. You want as much distance between you and that killer as humanly possible. And to really see what else was chipping away at Del Monte's strength, we need to head to the place where its next battle was being fought. Smell that? Smells like a food run. Let's go get some corn. It's really easy to look at Del Monte's collapse and just blame the debt. But there's a bigger lesson here. Some of the most successful companies aren't built on flashy products, they're built on boring ones. That's why our team put together the Boring Food Business Playbook. It breaks down how 5 simple staples like canned fruit, margarine, and ketchup quietly grew into billion-dollar brands. You'll see how the best ones priced right, scaled smart, and stayed sticky, and where some of them fell apart. Once you know what made them work, it gets easier to spot the next one, just like it did for Heinz and Nissan, and yes, Del Monte. Because when the market shifts, the right playbook helps you see it coming and move faster than the companies that did, like Del Monte. Which brings us back to our story and the first big problem the company faced, changing taste. This is a chart of canned fruit and vegetable consumption in America from 1970 to 2008. Over 4 decades, US consumption of canned vegetables fell from about 30% to 24%. Canned fruit dropped 5% over the same period. It wasn't dramatic, just a steady decline. And while Del Monte held its ground and reported record profits, other categories sprinted ahead. Between 2008 and 2023, organic food sales nearly tripled. Then, in the middle of that boom, the pandemic hit and frozen produce exploded. According to the American Frozen Food Institute, by 2021, frozen vegetables alone reached $3 billion. Part of it was practicality. Frozen food lasts. It's easy and it feels fresh. But it also was perception. While some dietitians said frozen might be just as healthy as canned, others pointed out a major difference: salt. According to a UC Davis review, the difference between frozen and canned is massive. Fresh and frozen corn, beans, and peas all had almost no sodium. But once canned, they shot up to more than 2 grams per kilo. Del Monte's core portfolio was now out of sync with what modern shoppers wanted. And just as that perception was setting in, another threat was already on the shelves. Once seen as generic or second tier, private labels or store brands weren't knockoffs anymore. They were a competitive edge. In 2009, over 800 new store brand food products launched, flooding the market. The stores controlled the shelf space and used it to undercut legacy brands like Del Monte.
179.
All right. So, you're basically looking at a 15-ounce can of Del Monte kernel corn. Price $179. These are the competition, costing up to 58% less. Now, since I love you guys so much and I take my job so seriously, I'm gonna do a little bit of a taste test right now to see if that difference in price represents a difference in anything else. You need to be a camera-ready can opener, all right? This is your time to shine. Ooh, good job. We're good to go. Okay, so let's taste these. That's pretty good. Number 2. Taste-wise, it definitely tastes better than this can. This corn looks pretty good. Well, I'm not writing home about this corn, but it's a serviceable corn. But in comparison to all 3 of them, I'm going 1, 2, 3. Anyway, let's get back to the video. By 2010, store brands were responsible for nearly half of all canned fruit and veggie sales. Suddenly, Del Monte wasn't just the name you recognized, it was the name you paid more for. But the biggest hit did not come from the competition, it came from Del Monte itself. In 2014, Del Monte made a move that would shape the rest of its story. The part of the company that sold canned fruits and vegetables, tomato products like Contadina, S&W beans, and College Inn broth, was sold to its parent company, Del Monte Pacific, for $1.7 billion. Its pet food division, Meow Mix, Milk Bone, and Kibbles and Bits, stayed behind. That unit was renamed Big Heart Pet Brands and sold to J.M. Smucker the following year for about $5.8 billion. The point here is that the sale brought in cash, but also left Del Monte's US business carrying nearly $1 billion in debt. What looked like a strategic reset came at a cost. But the real damage came when outside forces hit the one thing it still controlled: the can. Out of 14 annual reports that I reviewed from 2004 to 2017, 6 of them explicitly warned of the material financial risk of template or steel shortages and price hikes. Basically saying, if the cost of template spiked, margins would suffer. In 2018, those warnings became oh so real.
Today, I'm defending America's national security by placing tariffs on foreign imports of steel and aluminum.
The move hit Del Monte at its core like a dented can. According to CBS News, the following year, Del Monte's CFO directly cited rising costs as the key reason for smaller margins. In 2019, Del Monte closed multiple US canning plants to cut costs. Just as things hit a low, something unexpected gave them hope. As Del Monte bottomed out, the world was kind of falling apart from the pandemic. And suddenly, everyone wanted a can. Del Monte's profits grew incrementally, reaching about $54 million by 2022, still far from their heyday. According to their bankruptcy filing, it felt like a rebound. The company committed to production volumes based on elevated COVID-era demand levels, which had reached historic highs. Heading into the 2023 pack season, Del Monte ramped up production, expecting demand to stay high. But that demand didn't last. Restrictions lifted, panic faded. The company was left with way too much product and not enough buyers. To move inventory, it slashed prices, cutting into already thin margins. It worked a little bit on paper, Revenue reached about $1.7 billion in 2024. All things considered, that number might look like a win. Until you start to realize two things. It's the same low they hit in 2014, making what was once the bottom now the plateau, and they're still carrying about $1.2 billion in secured debt, with less and less room than ever to outrun it. On July 2nd, 2025, Del Monte Foods filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The goal wasn't to shut down, but to buy time. Restructure the debt, stay operational, find a buyer. Its parent company, Del Monte Pacific, stepped in with $900 million in emergency financing, hoping to keep the U.S. business afloat while quietly working to sell off American assets. In public, the company framed it as a reset, a court-led sale to stabilize the business. But behind that language was a simple truth. The business had to shrink to survive. Del Monte didn't fall because it sold corn and peaches, or lost a few shells, or missed the organic boom, or made one bad deal. No single piece brought it down. But together, they made a fruit salad a failure. The brand that once helped Americans prepare for anything wasn't prepared for this. If you like this breakdown, check out my friend Kaya's video on the strategy behind the rise of Buc-ee's and why so much of America is now obsessed with a gas station. Remember to click the link in the description to download the Boring Food Business Playbook. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the Hustle YouTube channel for more stories just like this. Adios.